How's it going, guys? Today we're talking about the new Dynasty rookie running back model that I've created. This is something that's been in the works for a couple months now, and I've been taking some time off creating due to various reasons. If you watched my last video, but one of the main ones was this right here. I wanted to create something that could help us get the edge in our Dynasty rookie drafts. And I wasn't gonna give you guys anything before I felt like it was ready to go. If I didn't feel like it was going to help us, I was not going to put it out there in a video. However, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I've comfortably been able to figure out what is important for rookie running backs and what's not important. And so that is what we're going to get into in this video. I'm going to put my model up to the test against NFL draft capital and see how it lines up, how it compares, and then I'm going to give you um, my top 10 running backs in the model since 2016. This goes back as far as 2016. I can't get to go any farther, mostly because of the advanced stats that are in the model. They just don't go back far enough, which is kind of a bummer because, there's a lot of running backs we'd love to see pair up against these running backs that are coming in now. You think about Hero Danny Tomlinson's, Jamal Charles. There's a million guys you could talk about. Shady McCoy, just a bunch of ones that just you'd love to see. But, we don't have stats go back that far. So nonetheless, we're going to see since 2016 who are the best ones in this model. And then before the draft, I'm going to give you guys multiple videos of how this 2023 class lines up because that's what we want to use it, right? We want to figure out who's going to be the best in 2023. But before we do that, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is the most important thing I'm going to tell you, perhaps in this whole video, all right? If you want to get more of this content I'm about to show you, go down in the description, click on the Discord, join the Discord. I talk way more about the model there. I can only tell you guys so much in these videos. If you want to learn more about this, please click on that link and you will join our Discord where we talk about so much more of the model, but a lot about it. And I give you guys so many updates. So if you want to join our community, go ahead and click on that link. So let's start off first with the NFL draft capital. All right. I think that's one of the greatest things we can look at and figure out, okay, which one of these, if we have a bunch of running backs, especially this 23 class, who's going to be the best out of all of them? We're going to look at draft capital. That's just one of those things where, the NFL has their guys that they like. They've been scouting them. They know more than we do. At least I hope so. And that's just something we need to be looking at. Now, it's not everything because people are going to make mistakes. But it is something that we need to see like, okay, like last year, James Cook had him probably running back 5 or 6, gets picked in the second round. Well, you're going to bump him up a little bit. We're not going to pull a Clyde Edwards-Helaire move or put him above Jonathan Taylor just because he got picked to the Chiefs, but it's something to keep in mind. So we want to see how the model stacks against it. And I want to build something that's better than draft capital. So let's see exactly what draft capital is. So that's what I did. And since 2016, I have about 195 rookie running backs entered, and this is kind of how they shake out based off the ones that were drafted. So we can see here, that the closer you get to being picked in the first and second rounds, the better you're going to do, right? It's not rocket science. It's something that most people would imagine would happen. But as we see here, they have a R squared value of 0.414. Now, if you're not familiar with, analytics, essentially the closer you get to 1, the better. You want to get to as close as 1 as possible. Now, I know there'll be people that are far smarter than I that say that's not exactly what you want to happen. I understand. But for simplicity purposes, we want to be able to have the strongest correlation to points per game, right? And draft capital has a pretty good correlation. 0.414 is a very solid correlation in my opinion. Now you're always going to have outliers, but I think that is pretty good. Based off of a lot of other stats, I've never found a stat and it's one stat alone that's even close to that. So I think that is a really good way to look at things. If you're just trying to figure out who to pick, going with draft capital is not a bad way to go about it. However, we want to pick something that's even more, correlated to fantasy points per game. So as you can see here on the left-hand side, it shows the points per game for your entire career as a running back. The bottom is draft capital. So you have a couple guys up there, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. Now, I know there's not names, but Saquon went number 2. Leonard Fournette was up there as well in the top 10. So a couple of those guys, if you get picked in that top, the first round, it's very difficult to not be a stud, essentially. Now, guys like CEH, I think Sonny Michel, I believe, was the first round pick. Sometimes there's guys like that. But, generally speaking, they're pretty safe prospects. So 0.414 is what we have for the draft capital since 2016 based on the guys I have in the model. Like I said, so now let's look at what I have been able to create in the model that I've made. Again, I don't like using the word model, but I don't really know what else to call it. So that's what we're going to call it for now. So here's what I've created. And it is based on a scale of 1 to 10. That's the scores you can get. 10 would be, it's almost impossible. I mean, it is impossible to get a score of 10. You'd have to be perfect. And I will get to how I differentiate the scores and what they mean here in a few seconds. But as you can see here, the R-squared value of 0.53 is much more correlated than draft capital. So we defeated draft capital by quite a bit, in my opinion. I think it's really good, and I'm proud of that score. This isn't just random. It is a lot of hard work of trying to figure out what stats mean the most to running backs. And there's people that are, again, far smarter than me that can probably find, different ways of doing this. But this is what I've been able to figure out, and it's helpful, in my opinion. So I'm going to go over my top 10 here in a few minutes. But as we can see, the better score, the closer to 10 you get, the better you're going to have, as a career. You're going to be scoring more points per game, which is all we care about in fantasy. So I thought it was important to show you guys, how that basically I'm not just saying random numbers. And this model is not just pooping out random numbers and it's not actually helping. Like, this is going to help us immensely in rookie drafts. So without further ado, let's take a look at my top 10 final grades for my model. Now, I'm very excited to share this with you guys. I have basically 3 different ways of going about this. 3 different stages, I guess I should call it. First is a pre-combine. That's just production. It's all the production from your college career, and those are somewhat accurate at depicting how you're going to be in the NFL. But then we go to the combine. Once we get the combine in, we get those numbers. I'll put those into the model, and then we'll get even more accurate. And then once we have the draft, this is when you get your final grade. And then you get assigned into certain categories. So until the draft, I can't release the 2023 final grades. I do have the pre-combine and the post-combine, which I will be making in videos, which I'm excited to share because I haven't been able to talk about the 23 running backs yet. So I'm pumped to be able to share that. But first, let me break this down for you guys. So we have the final grades, right? Like I said, scale 1 through 10. Number 1 by a mile, Saquon Barkley. Just almost impeccable prospect, the best prospect since 2016, without a doubt. And without his injuries, I can't even imagine what he would have done in fantasy. And he's still coming back. I mean, he had a good year this past year. The Giants' offense isn't real great, and he still had a pretty solid year. Leonard Fournette was a little bit of a surprise. I know he was a good prospect coming out of 2017. Wasn't expecting him to be as high as he was, but I did. I think that it is warranted to say that it wasn't a miss because he had a really good career. He's had 4 out of his 6 years. He was a running back 1. The other 2 that he missed it, he was injured. So I mean, that's a pretty solid season. And we go down the list here, and there's plenty of guys that are just, there's pretty much no misses at this point, and that's why I've kind of cut it off here. So essentially, in order to make certain categories, I try to figure out where the tiers at, where the cliffs at. And so here's what I've come up with, and it shows here. There's only 2 categories in this one, but there's the farther down you go, the different, stages they get into. But in order to make it into the generational category, extremely rare, you have to get a score above 9, as you can kind of tell here. Get a score above 9, and you get to be in elite company. A score above 8.4, which you can see is Hall of Fame. This is, I believe, all the ones that make it on the Hall of Fame level. Then the tier break goes down. If you, like I said, if you guys want to know more, if you want to see the full list, join the Discord and ask me any questions about the model that you'd like. I'll answer them all. But the further you go down, the different tiers we get into. And so once we get in the 2023 class, I'll explain it more. But there's different levels. There's after Hall of Fame, there's really good, then average. Then I believe there's upside. I think upside's before average. Then there's bad and there's really bad. And anyway, you get the gist. But for now, these are the categories. And then type. This is one thing I was really interested in trying to figuring out. So there's 4 different types. All right. Now I don't want this. This might be a lot of information overload. So you might want to watch this video over a couple times. But the different types, there are 4 different kinds. And these are all based off of their stature, their size. I didn't want to put that into the actual grade, as I feel like the NFL is going to start shifting into smaller backs, as we'll see in this class. But the different types, there's workhorse plus. All right. That's the best kind, in my opinion. That's the biggest backs. They're over 210 pounds. Now, these are the thresholds. If you're over 210, you're going to be a workhorse. Now, if your BMI is above 30, then you'll be workhorse plus. Below 30, workhorse light, as we can see here. Zeke's a little bit taller. Joe Mixon's a little bit taller. So it's really hard to get BMI over 30. Whereas the rest of the guys, over 30, over 210, right? These are the guys you want to get. These are the 3 down backs that you will be, they're the workhorses, points per game, much higher chance of, sustaining Dynasty fantasy football relevance. Okay. Then we look at, after that, if they're below 210, you can only have 2 groups. You can have committee, all right? Or you can have running back by committee. So I believe it's actually committee plus, but essentially running back by committee, that's the worst kind you can get. You're below the 210, you're below the BMI of 30. As you can see, it's in red. A committee plus is essentially you're under the 210 pounds, right? But you still have a BMI above 30. So you might be a little bit smaller, but you're at least a little bit stocky, right? So you might only weigh 205 pounds, but it's because you're only 5'8" and your BMI is still above 30. I don't know if that math checks out, might not check out, but you get the gist, right? So we just want to have these big backs. And by far the biggest outlier there is Christian McCaffrey, right? A running back by committee, small back, under 210, under 30 BMI, didn't matter. He's a stud. And as we get into this class, I'm going to show you guys how unlikely it is for running back by committee, running back to produce. It's scary. Christian McCaffrey is the only back to really do anything at all. So there are a lot of these backs in the 2023 class, and it's going to be very pivotal to see how the NFL selects them and uses them, especially for fantasy. I'm a little concerned, but I'm also very interested to see, is this going to change the whole landscape? I don't know. We'll see. But this is my list as of right now. I hope this makes sense. This is my model, and I'm going to continue to make videos on this. So if you aren't quite sure, like I said, you can come join the community, but I will be making more videos. That's all I have for you guys right now. I really hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this makes sense and that you guys can use this in the future as we move forward with these rookie drafts. I'll be, like I said, I'll be coming out with these 23 videos, and we'll be talking about this way more so that we can get these nailed down before our rookie drafts. So I appreciate you guys hanging around.